Thanksgiving recap. Let's get it.
Welcome to FaZe Fantasy Live with your host, Lonnie Z.
Welcome to the show, everybody. It's your boy, Lonnie Z. This is FaZe Fantasy Live, and along with me today is Jake Hansen, my partner in crime, and we are going to be breaking down all the Thanksgiving games. There were 3 games in total. We're going to break down those games and go over the fantasy implications that they had. And then we're going to talk about today's game, Miami and the Jets in New York. That game was kind of a disappointment, but we're going to go over all that, and we're going to get you set up for this weekend's games. We're going to do the preview right after this one. There'll be another podcast with our Week 12 preview, and that will get you ready for this weekend's games. What's going on, Jake? How are you, man? How was your Thanksgiving?
It was good. Everything was good. Good food, good people. How was yours?
It was good, man. It was good. You know, you can't ask for much more than sitting around, eating food, watching football, right? With family. That's just like the best. That's the best thing. And that's what I did. You know, I had a few bets out there, and so it was good. But let's get into this first game. The Detroit Lions and the Green Bay Packers. Now, it's a rivalry game, obviously, because they're in the same division. But I don't think anyone saw this coming. People have been talking about the Lions as a Super Bowl contender. And are they a Super Bowl pretender? I mean, really, we've had a few pretenders, right? That we've thrown out there this year. I mean, the Cowboys, the Niners. Now we got to look at the Lions, right? The Niners have shown us that they're not pretenders, and the Cowboys are playing better now. So they're like, we're not either. But the Lions, man, I'm kind of a little concerned about that. Jordan Love looked good. He really helped out his fantasy owners. You know, he had 26.62 FanDuel points, and that's good. You know, especially for him because he was a bargain at his cost. You know, he was $7,200, so at his cost, that was good. What was your take on this game, man?
Yeah, Lions starting to. It seems like the opposing defenses are figuring them out a little bit. I think Dan Campbell's being a little too pretty with the running back situation. You know, Gibbs did not have. You know, I mean, he had 11 runs, but he only had. I think a couple of 4 touches in the passing game, 4 receptions, and it. I don't know. You could tell the last 2 weeks it's been down. The Bears almost beat them last week. Green Bay pretty much handled them this week. You know, if you look at Goff's fantasy score, it wasn't bad. Same as Love's. His was good, you know. But it was the quarterback receiving game this week. Aaron St. Brown, Raymond, 18, 14 points. Watson had 20 points, you know, and Reed had 15. And Reed's being really consistent, you know. So going forward, you know, I would keep running with Reed. Watson, I don't know. It's all about matchup base, you know, to see what happens. I mean, that's his best game he had all year, and we're in week 12. So,
Yeah.
you know, Jordan Love looked good. He came out and had a great game. But you know, the Lions, they'll probably figure it out. You know, everybody's pretty much having a couple of bad games here and there, but they don't look like a scary team though right now. They don't look like a scary playoff team, to be honest.
No, I feel like if they played against a real contender, like if they played against the 49ers or Eagles, someone like that, you know, the Cowboys, they'd have a real tough time.
They played Baltimore and got mopped.
Yeah, destroyed.
Destroyed.
Exactly. You're absolutely right. And yeah, I'm with you on Reed. You know, you could play him as a low end flex moving forward. And for all these leagues that dropped Christian Watson, I'm not saying run out and get him, but if you got him and threw him on your bench, maybe he's starting to heat up. We know the kid's talented, but I know a lot of leagues just dropped him. You know, he's sitting out there on the waiver wire, so he may be available. Let's get on to the next game. The next game was the Dallas Cowboys and the Washington Redskins. That game was it was a blowout. It was what we expected. We expected Dallas to whoop them, and they did Bro, I got sold on Sam Howell rushing. I got him at 15.5 yards, and then I suggested when they dropped down to 13.5 that everyone go get him because he's going to be running for his life. He's going to get that because he runs. Sam Howell runs. Sold me
Hmm.
13 yards, and the people that got him at 13.5
Hmm.
just chalked him, bro. And I was just so
Hmm.
pissed. I'm like, bro, just run it one more. But the thing is about Sam Howell, he's a passer. He wants to pass first. So he'll run and run right up to the line,
Yeah.
then he'll throw it instead of just run another five, get 5, 10 yards. And so, yeah.
Hmm.
But the Cowboys defense looks good. It looks like it's getting back again. Dak, I know last week they won last week, but he didn't have a great fantasy game. He had 32, fantasy points on FanDuel this week. And once again, he's hot. And CeeDee Lamb, he had 15 fantasy points, 15, a little more than 15 fantasy points, 15.3. Um, all in all, the Cowboys offense looks like it's rolling. You can feel really good. I think you can feel really good if you had Dak this year, if you have CD. And it was really a real good sign for us Pollard owners, right? He finally had a decent game that we felt comfortable with. 19 fantasy points, 19.3. What was your take?
Dallas is just dominating the last couple games. I mean, they haven't been playing. I mean, the teams have been somewhat good teams, but they're just on it right now. Washington just looks like a bad football team, like a really bad football team. There's another bad football team we're going to talk about here in a while. Yeah, I mean, they fired their coach this morning, defensive coach. I'm sorry, and
Yep.
it just doesn't make sense. I mean, Del Rio needs to go. I mean, not Del Rio, Rivera needs to
Mm-hmm.
go. As
Yeah, Del
yeah,
Rio's gone. That's who got
yeah,
fired today.
and Sam House still had an all right fantasy game. Fantasy wise, 21 points. Curtis Samuel was the top receiver at 22. And yeah, Dak went off, man, 35. Tony Pollard finally 22. And then a CD Lamb, 17. But Brandon Cooks had 17. Jalen Ferguson, tight end. Jake Ferguson had 4. Yeah, Dallas just dominated that game, man. They look good. They look good. I just look at
Yeah.
a statistic though. The teams that they have beat are under 500. The average
Yeah.
is like
That's why we called them bullies,
the
right?
average winning percentage of the teams that they have beat this year is 0.350. So,
Yeah.
but they're playing good football. I mean, they are looking like playing good football. They played Philly tough a couple weeks ago. So, we'll see going forward, see how they do. But they dominated. I mean, there's nothing really to talk about this game. Honestly, they smoked the Commanders. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, and as far as the guys that you can play, obviously it's CD, it's Dak. You're okay with Dak, man. You ran into a jewel with Dak this year, his second half of the year. And Brandon Cooks, man, I like what I'm seeing. They're using him more, and he's being very, very productive. And you can hold on to Pollard for another week and see. It's still kind of like rolling
Yeah,
dice, and you're nervous, but he looked better. He did look better. And I will say this: Curtis Samuel, man, looked really good.
yeah. He's been good when he's healthy. He's been consistent when he's healthy.
Yeah, that's for sure. And then the night game was I don't know, that game was a joke if you ask me. San Francisco just came in and whooped Seattle. Seattle looked bad. They just looked bad. And I don't know if Gino is cuz he's hurt or banged up, but he didn't look good at all. Um
Oh, Geno Smith is fucking washed. That guy is washed.
he looked washed yesterday, that's for sure. They were saying his arm is messed up, but I don't know, is his legs messed up too? Because he would just stand in the pocket, not move, not do anything. And I know that the Niners now they're stout on that front four. That's just a solid front four now. It's the worst. If you're playing against them, you don't want to see that front four. But I think arguably right now the best front four in football. From one end to the next. Brock Purdy, I thought Brock Purdy would have a bigger game than he did, but he only came out of it with on FanDuel 11.46 fantasy points on FanDuel. He just did what he had to do to win the game, but they didn't need much from Brock Purdy. They didn't need much from any of their players. McCaffrey's going to be McCaffrey. Big fantasy game for everyone. We kind of knew that since he didn't get the touchdown the week before. We knew that he was going to come out. Matter of fact, I haven't had him have him in some FanDuel stuff that I'm playing. I just paid the money to get him because I just knew. And yeah, 28 fantasy points. He looked good, and then Debo looked solid. The way they used him, he had 18 fantasy points. And Ayuk, a lot of people were saying that they thought Ayuk would have a bigger game, but sometimes when McCaffrey and Debo are getting the rock a lot, then Kittle and Ayuk are the ones usually that lose out on that. What was your take on that game?
A little surprising. I didn't know it was going to be that lopsided. I thought it was going to be a little closer, but the start of the game, I really, it really looked like the Niners were going to win 50-7. I mean, they were just going down easy on them, and then they just a couple big plays that Seattle made, and then they had a kick couple field goals and all that, but. And then the second half, the Niners kind of slowed up a little bit, but Seattle. I mean, so fantasy wise, it was a bad game. Was a really bad game. Whoever had a Seattle player did not do anything. With Kenneth Walker getting hurt me on one of my leagues, and I know it hurt a lot of people. Charbonnet 9 points. Geno Smith is washed. That dude is not. There's no way he is going into next year as a starting quarterback with Seattle. There's
Yeah,
no freaking way, man. There's no way. There has to be somebody with going against him or something. Try Drew Lock. I'd seen a lot of things this morning that people were saying on the radio. Why won't they try Drew Lock? There's nothing that Geno Smith is doing that another quarterback cannot do. And like that dude is not a. I mean, DK Metcalf is, Batman. He's overrated as shit. That
I
guy's
agree.
overrated. I mean, he might look great because he's big and tall and got muscles, but he's overrated. I mean, you're getting pushed around by a 180-pound cornerback. Um, yeah, but a bad fantasy game for them. The Niners, Brock Purdy, he really light, 11 points, but he made the throws when he had to. He did like any other
Yep.
quarterback in this league. I mean, Patrick Mahomes did not have a great game a couple games ago. Against Philly, he didn't have a great game.
Hmm.
He didn't have a great game. He made a great throw when it got dropped. Now, if they would have caught that ball, then he would have had a great game. But he didn't have a great game.
We'd be talking different about that game, right?
Exactly. So it's just the throws, man. Um, McCaffrey, 33 fantasy points. Debo went off. Ayuk, he caught his touchdown, and Kittle had a slow game. The Niners dominated them. That there's nothing about it. It's the same thing. The Niners dominated, and people are gonna be shocked that I'm saying this. And Dallas dominated the Commanders. I mean, two teams that should have won dominated. The team that should have won yesterday lost. Lions.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And I'm liking a little bit more and more Jackson Smith and Jiba because against a tough team, he's still out. And this, trust me, this is not like, oh yeah, he went off because he did not. He had five fantasy for FanDuel. He had 5 fantasy points, but Lockett had 4.5 and Metcalf had 4.7. So he outscored them. And you're right.
Well, he had that one-handed catch. If he didn't have that, he would have had nothing.
But you're right, DK, bro, he should be dominant with his size, build, and everything. He's too busy worrying about the color of his hair and how his nose ring looks and all that shit. He needs to be working his ass off to be a better wide receiver.
Well, Gino has Gino, like I'm not gonna take I'm not gonna blame DK too much, but Gino has a lot of overthrows. Like yesterday, a lot of overthrows, a lot of throws on the sideline that was going out of bounds, and and a, and a lot of I mean, I'm saying a lot of overthrows, but then he had a lot of underthrows too. He underthrew the ball a lot, and I know his elbows messed up. But what put Lock in? Like, what do you got to lose? I mean, one, you're not going to win the West now. I mean, maybe because the Niners have a tough schedule coming up. They have like 3 tough games in a row, so maybe. But I mean, they do. They got the Eagles, Seattle, and the Ravens. Cardinals, Ravens, whatever. So they got 3, 4 games that are really tough coming up. But Seattle has to play, the same team. So Seattle going into San Francisco might be a little tough. But I don't know. Gino just seems like he's all he's just really erratic. He's really erratic.
Yeah, they need to make a change there for sure. All right, so today's first ever Black Friday game. I'm having a giveaway with our Discord this week, and the code phrase is piggybank30. Whoever DMs me first with the code phrase piggybank30 will win a $30 Cash App prize. It was hyped up. Jets, Dolphins. The Jets came out looking really good in their black uniforms. I love those uniforms. The Dolphins always look clean. Just one of the cleanest uniforms in the league is the Dolphins. And I'm in this Discord, and they were asking about who to play and this and that, and I said I went under on Tua's yards, and everyone was like, "Oh, you can't," because da da da. I'm like, if you just look at Tua though, when he plays against tough defenses, he struggles, and he just misses yards. He just missed his yards, but he missed them. He did come in under. He only had 9 on FanDuel, 9.8 fantasy points. It didn't matter though, because they didn't really need Tua. They just their defense got it done. The Jets' offense is abysmal. It's just horrible. Tim Boyle came in and did the best he could. Well, I don't know. Did he do the best he can? Is that the best he can do? He had 9.36 fantasy points. But the thing is, bro, if you don't get Breece Hall going and you can't get the ball to Garrett Wilson, then what do you expect? And especially with Breece Hall. Breece Hall chalked me on two cards. I had Breece Hall to get at least 26 receiving yards, and I had him to get 54 rushing yards. He didn't do either one. Not either one. I mean, he had 8.4 fantasy points. And we all know Breece Hall's a stud, but Saleh, once again, he doesn't know what the hell he's doing, man. He doesn't know how to run an offense. And I know they could blame it on the quarterback play, but you can be more creative then. Then let your defense and your running game set up the passing game. So I just thought it was a crap game. I knew the Dolphins would win, but and I thought that Tyreek would struggle a little more. Tyreek still ends up with 20 points, bro. He had 20 points. He had 9 receptions. It's just Tyreek being Tyreek, 102 yards. Just no matter if it's Sauce on him or DJ Reed, no matter who was on him, and they're making it a point to throw him the ball. They're like, no, Mike McDaniel is like, I'm getting Tyreek the ball no matter what. Mostert had another big game. It didn't look like it. It looked like it was a slow game for him, but he ends up with 21 fantasy points on FanDuel and got a couple touchdowns. So once again, the Dolphins look like they're where they need to be. They won the game like they should have. What was your take on it?
Yeah, this was a non-quarterback fantasy day. This Mostert 21, Tyreek Hill 28, Waddle 22. Tua had under 10 or had 10. Boyle had under 10. Breece Hall 11, and Garrett Wilson had that last touchdown at the end. That touchdown at the end of the game he had 17. Man, there's no. I'd be really shocked if Saul was a coach for the Jets at the end of the year. Man, it's not quarterback situation no more. It's not. It's not. It's not just quarterback. I mean, it's not. You know what I mean? It's not. Good coaches win. I mean, I look at when Mahomes is out for 3 games. Andy Reid has that team who he had Blaine Gabbert, or he had I don't know, he had Chad Henne, and they're winning games. Yeah, it's. I mean, yeah, you might not win the
Whoever.
game
Yep.
like you should, or you might win 1 out of 3 or whatever. But the Jets look awful. Defense is not strong. Their offense is awful. Breece Hall he can't even he could barely get 1 yard. And like we always say, me and you could get 1 yard. It's just unreal, man. Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. It was a bad fantasy game. The game was awful for a Friday game to try to be all pumped up and garbage. There's really nothing to talk about it, honestly. Garbage.
Yeah, it was a bad game. Bad game. Kind of expected it. I didn't expect it to be a shootout. I thought it'd be a defensive game, but I thought that the Jets would play a little better than that.
Yeah, Miami's defense ain't that great. Miami's defense is not that great.
I don't know why I thought that. Why they haven't done it all year? Why would I think it now? Right? They're going to be better.
No, I'm just saying, no, I thought Breece Hall was gonna have a great game. I thought Boyle was gonna have at least a couple 100 yards passing. I mean, Miami's defense is not great, and they bad.
Yeah, I just think, man, if you had all your hopes, like you said it earlier in the year, one player does not make a whole team, and they got to get off that Aaron Rodgers crap, bro. So what? Rodgers ain't walking through that door this season. He's not going to play now. There's no way that they run him out there unless he just demands that he's healthy and the doctor says he's okay, and he just wants to play just to get some reps in, and get ready for next year. Because I I don't even know with Rodgers, this is not a Super Bowl team. This is not I don't even think they get to the AFC Championship with Aaron Rodgers.
No.
So I agree with you. Salah's going to be in trouble. He's got those old fossils helping
Look
him out on the offense and defense. They're just
look, man, Green Bay couldn't even do it last year, and Green Bay's team last year was better than this Jets team.
exactly. I agree.
So what with Aaron Rodgers? Come on,
Better
man.
coached, better defense. Well,
Better
better
coach,
defense
better
could be,
I mean,
debatable, but better
yeah,
offensive.
debatable, but the offense, wait,
Yeah. Yeah.
garbage. This is sad. I was watching that with Breece Hall. I was watching a little bit of it off and on my phone. It was
Yeah.
garbage.
Little anticlimactic game today, and
Mhm.
nothing that, you know,
And I tell you what, though, man, Miami's in a bad state. Miami is not that great of a
no,
team. I'm sorry. They're all, I mean, Tua and all that, like you said, a tough defense. Miami's not. Miami's gonna have a tough time.
they are, and their schedule doesn't get any easier moving forward. And especially if you have Miami players, a lot of Miami players, and they've carried you to where you're at right now. Come fantasy playoffs, their schedule gets really tight, and it's going to be difficult for them to bring it home for you. You saw what happened today against a lackluster Jets team. Tua couldn't even get it going. And yeah, they may win their games during that stretch, maybe, but for them to win you your fantasy playoffs and championship, if you're banking on them, I'm not saying to go out and sell the Dolphins. I'm just saying that their schedule is rough during the fantasy playoffs this year. It's not an easy schedule. So enjoy it while you can, because people like me are coming for you. Even though I do have Tyreek in one of my leagues and Mostert in the other. But yeah, so all in all, the Thanksgiving games were all they're okay. I mean, I wouldn't say they were competitive. The only competitive one could have been the first one, and that really wasn't competitive. The Packers pretty much had that game the whole time until the end, where Goff just started running a 2-minute offense, and he and he chalked people that were saying he wouldn't have the attempts. So many people so mad they had him under on attempts. I'm like, well, why would you have him under on attempts? This is what he does, you know.
Mhm.
But yeah, uh, can't complain about 3 games of football on a Thursday, eating good food,
No,
and then having the first Black Friday game. That was cool, you know. But it wasn't a great game. It was not a great
no.
game. But anyway, that's going to wrap up the recap, the Thanksgiving recap, and the Black Friday recap. We are going to be doing the preview, week 12 preview show right after this. And so look forward to that. And we'll get you all set up for this weekend's games. Once again, I am Lonnie. He is Jake. And we will catch you on the next one.